So what are we talking about?
Did we say the engagement?
Yeah, let's talk about the engagement. Welcome to the
Kiki
and Cowboy. Well, actually, it's Misadventures of
Kiki
and Cowboy.
Way to go.
podcast.
Already starting the misadventure with the misadventure of...
Well, it's true to form. It's how we roll.
Yeah.
And we can always edit it. But if you're hearing it exactly how it is, we chose not to.
We don't edit anything. Quite honestly, let's be real about that.
Other than the occasional flatulence. Not saying who, not saying when or how.
Hey, don't call me out like that in front of everybody. You got to do that.
Might edit it in.
Yeah, knowing you would edit it in on my behalf. Thank you very
Kiki
much.
had tacos tonight.
Thanks. Thanks for calling me out
Tonight's
that
actually
way.
pizza night. All right, so now we are going to be talking. Our topic tonight is.
Well, okay, so before we get into the topic, because I love to do this to you every single time.
I need a sound effect for the sidebar.
So
insert sound effect.
Yeah, insert sound effect. I don't know what would it.
It's already happened.
Screeching brakes? What would that be?
I've decided later, and they just heard it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, whatever the sound is, people, I hope you enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
I hope it was appropriate. So I was thinking.
I like where this is going already.
I was thinking to the moment that I fell in love with you.
Oh, whoa. Okay. That's not where this podcast was going.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it's related.
In love.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can absolutely place the...
I also remember...
Absolute
from
moment.
my perspective, I can place the... Absolute
You can?
Moment. Yes, I can.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is.
Now, maybe that's just because it's our second time around and
we're not 12.
older and, the memory is more recent.
Yeah. Fair.
But one of the things you said to me, among many, but the thing that just kind of like...
Was it in French?
I went, no.
Monsieur.
Oh, thank you.
Without the accent.
Oh, are you so
Monsieur.
Sweet? You called me your tornado.
Ah, yes.
And that right there just set my heart aflame. And I was just like, and it was more that I was like, oh, he actually like sees me.
The chaos that you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you referred to yourself as a storm chaser.
Yep.
So that's how it leads into this podcast, because the topic we have today is on tornadoes and storm chasers.
Yes.
But I don't want to derail things. Do you want to hop into the topic?
You don't want to derail.
Yeah, I already did. I started this off immediately that way.
The tornado says, I don't mean to derail things, but ooh, there's a train.
Oh, look.
Boom.
Derail.
Oh, poo. Sorry.
Oops.
There goes the roofs.
Yes.
Oh, is that
100%.
a factory? Oh. Oh, dust everywhere. Right.
Yes.
So we're talking about a derailment. Of a time when there was
epic proportion, I would say.
Very specific plans, which is, so for a cowboy, something else should know about me is I'm not a great planner. I'm okay. There are times to plan, and there's times not
mediocre
to plan.
at best.
So when I was in scouting, and I was a scout leader for a little while, and yes, that required lots of planning, lots of coordination. There are parts of my life that have required lots of planning and lots of coordination.
Right.
Most of the time, I'm pretty just kind of go with the flow because,
Yes.
And when I met Kiki, the whole tornado chasing thing, that requires that literally you might just suddenly, oh, we're going left now, and be ready to go left.
Now, I'd like to position here,
because it's fun.
Aside from all evidence that will be presented during this podcast, contrary to that,
if it pleases the court.
But I would like to put forth
Exhibit
a claim to the court of opinion that we take turns being the tornado, and the other one is the storm chaser. So I just want everybody to know here that
there's a ratio,
it's not
and I'm pointing at her
me.
when I say 90. Thumbs back at me when I say 10.
I think you were pointing at yourself at 90.
90. No, that's a pointing at. thumbs back to me.
As I
10.
said, contrary to the mathematical evidence,
Yes, we're not using math in this equation.
One might put together on this.
We'll just take the equal sign away completely.
If you hear background noise, that is our children, where we had make your own pizza night, and so they are gathering around the hearth.
Yes, around because everyone has a hearth
around the hot stove, and they're looking at their accomplishments and
the marvel that is homemade pizza,
eating it while we're waiting for ours to be done.
Yes.
So I may pause in the middle of this just to throw you another.
Won't know, because I'll just edit out the pause.
Yes, but no, I think you should leave it in. Then they could just see how life with a tornado really is. Because
7 minutes of it's burning. You hear a fire extinguisher, the halon goes off.
The fact that the fire alarm goes off on a regular basis around here, and that the dogs know to run for cover.
They do. They're well trained in that area.
Poor babies.
Yes. Okay. So
anyway, we're getting off to like some convoluted. This is not my fault. I want to say it was yours.
Much like my plans, we were diverted temporarily. So here's the setup. So guys that are listening to this, you know.
Okay, keep talking because I'm going to go check on the pizza.
Okay, she's going to somehow check on the pizza while I'm conducting it. So this is for the fellas. So when we take time to make very explicit, well thought plans, we're careful. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy, a little bit of money. So while she's away, let's pretend like she's away. I hired a musician at a location at a place where she and I had breakfast. It was a song we both liked.
What?
She's back.
What did you say?
Because she somehow doesn't know this story. You know, for so long ago, but or recently, but long ago. So here's
recently, but long ago.
Yes. It depends on when this podcast could be aired. You know, this could be in space and someone on other planet's listening. But so guys, you'll appreciate this. I put a lot of effort into proposing. My plan was actually tell you what. Let's talk about the derailment, and I'll come back to what was derailed.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it almost like it was in live action.
Like live action. So
yes,
I had plans. I had invited her to a breakfast at a place we had breakfast before. We had met up because I was in the area.
We were gonna be in Austin with my family.
Right.
And for those of you who
well, she was if we rewind, how this place, so it's a Kirby Lane, which people in Austin will know Kirby Lane. They have several locations.
Absolutely.
It's lovely. It's a great
landmark location.
Yeah, it's fabulous. But she was in Austin at a time, and I was traveling, and I stopped by Austin.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that you were traveling.
Yeah, and I was in the area.
I was down there.
She came and met me for breakfast. We were dating. And she met me for breakfast, and it was this really neat place, and we did a little walk.
Oh, you mean before the engagement?
Yes, well, this is
before the proposal.
Before the proposal.
Okay, sorry.
So the reason that place was special is because we'd had a little time together, and we just kind of went for a walk, and I recognized this neat little park. It was just a nice little visit when we were dating. We weren't even engaged.
It was when we were dating.
Yes. And so that
there was a little park. It wasn't, for those of you who are Austinites, it was not the original Kirby Lane.
It wasn't the house on whatever street.
Please withhold your judgment for my husband. He picked a Kirby Lane that was near my family instead.
I was making it convenient for her. So fast forward to engagement weekend. Engagement weekend. So
engagement weekend. Okay.
I'm coming down.
You were traveling again. So I was down there again.
She was down there again, and I had made plans to just, hey, Kiki, let's have breakfast at that Kirby Lane from that last time. Remember, fun.
From that when we had a date a long time ago.
That was great. It wasn't that long ago, but I was probably 6 months prior. You know? And
something like that.
Something like that. Not even. But she's like, "Oh, great."
I did. I said that totally would be. I love the voice that he does for me.
Yeah, that's that's wonderful. And then. It's the day I'm coming down.
Yes.
But like the morning.
No. It was the day. It was the night before. So I'm in Austin with my family and knowing full well that I'm going to meet up with my beau for breakfast the next morning. Looking forward to it.
That's me.
And my mother surprises me and says, "Oh, by the way, we're going to do brunch at my house tomorrow morning."
Dun, dun, dun.
Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea that we were doing brunch the next morning. Now, there's some additional pieces to that whole story, but basically we were doing brunch to celebrate a birthday. I'll leave it at that. And so I didn't feel like I could say no and honestly,
it's a birthday for a family member. It's not just
a family member, right?
Optional.
It was a family member.
And
like she's making brunch. She's doing the whole thing.
You're staying across the street. You're nearby. There's family everywhere. 100%. It's a birthday brunch for a family member.
Which I didn't know anything about. Right? I didn't feel like I could say no. And
even though it's a surprise,
I had no idea that brunch with Cowboy was going to be anything more than let's just go get breakfast.
Yeah, let's have breakfast at Kirby Lane.
Let's go get breakfast at Kirby Lane. So what's funny about it is,
even though it took a month to plan,
I had no idea.
She had no idea,
and
I still get credit for it though.
And so I give him the news. Now, Cowboy, given that he is the storm chaser that he is, most of the time he pivots pretty well. And quite honestly, his own family are fairly kind of loose and fly by the seat of their pants.
It's a big family, so we kind of have to be.
They're not really hold tight to super rigid planning generally. So I'm thinking, no big deal. I'm going to just be like, hey, swing by, when you come into town, come over and have brunch instead of we'll go to instead of going to Kirby Lane. No biggie. And he acts really weird.
It took the wind out of my sails.
On the phone.
I was like,
In fact, I have a visual. I think I was sitting outside of a CVS pharmacy when I told him because I didn't think it was like any big deal. But he acts really weird. And
it did. I was
odder
a bit shocked,
than usual, for those of you who know and love Cowboy. And I started questioning, like we hung up and I was like, why is he acting so weird?
I was
it's something is
perturbed and concerned.
He did seem kind of perturbed and frustrated. I just didn't expect it, but at the same time, he kind of was like, how somebody completely ruins your plans. And you
try to act like it's not a big deal.
to act like it's not a big deal. That was exactly what he was doing. So he was.
Your breathing changes because you can't pretend.
Yeah,
that sounds. Of course, that's okay. I'm just gonna hang my head low.
that was pretty much the reaction. So that was the reaction, and then I started thinking about it, and by this point in our dating, we
were pretty far along.
We had talked enough that I knew his intentions already. I mean, honestly, you had taken my mom and her husband out to lunch a month or two before.
About a month out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
under the guise of, you were so cute. Like I'm 51 and he's like, I'd like to ask for her hand. It's so cute.
Here's a fun little story for Kiki. Her mother and her mother's husband, they got in the car with me and they both knew. They knew. Why would this, we'll call me a young man, right? Why would this fella want to take us to lunch for any other reason? And Kiki's mother's husband, right out of the gate, because he doesn't mince words. He just said, "You're gonna ask for her hand, aren't you?" And Kiki's mother goes, she immediately scolded him, just like like that. You're not supposed to do it like that. Like that's a terrible voice for her. But it was. Let's just say that there was no mystery about my intentions at this point. That Kiki understood and knew this was the path we were on. There was no question. Like Kiki and I talked about this. She'd obviously witnessed that. Like this was all.
I mean, coming. So I had an idea
together.
that it was coming.
Yeah.
In some period of time.
So it makes sense that you would read between the lines.
And I go home and I go back to my sister's house and I'm telling her and I'm like, there's something really weird. And then as I was talking, like lightning kind of hit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this was it. I think he was going to propose.
Somewhere there's Cowboy with a ring in his pocket.
And
that's
I
just
ruined
burning a
it.
hole.
I ruined it.
You did no such thing. You did no such thing.
And the worst, I almost cried.
But yeah.
In fact, I might have cried.
I would love to see our text exchange of that couple of hours.
And I was really fairly devastated because as a backstory.
Yep, I almost returned the ring.
When you did not, whatever.
It was not possible.
Almost returned the ring. But with my first marriage, I was the person who proposed, not my ex.
Yeah.
Look
at you.
This was my one and only opportunity to get proposed to.
Yep.
In my mind, and I was like, I ruined it.
You did no such
I
thing.
Ruined it.
You didn't.
I was really upset. Now, was I upset enough to go over to my mother's house and say, never mind, I'm not coming. Brunch is canceled. Like, you guys need to figure something else out. No, I just, was like, okay, never mind. And I was very Eeyore about it. And, shed probably a few tears.
I was somewhere sulking, going, okay, what's plan B? What's plan B? We got to have plan B. What's plan B?
Now,
we're on a timeline here.
Yes. So you had made plans unbeknownst to me.
Yes.
And did we already cover that? Did you say what
talked about the plans? No,
okay, so
because we're doing real time now.
Okay, so real time. So do you want to talk about the plans you made, or do you want to do that at the end?
Let's talk about what actually transpired. And we'll go back what could have been, but it doesn't matter at this point because what happened is
so the next morning comes,
was good. Yes.
And Cowboy rode his motorcycle
to brunch with the fam
and over to the family.
Yep.
And
as one does.
So interesting side fact, important, semi-important side fact. My sister and my mother live like
very
a
close.
House apart.
Yes.
So it's very easy to visit the both of them at the same time. So Cowboy arrived in Austin and I happened to be over at my sister's house. The brunch was going to be at my mom's house. And I knew he had been texting me and said, I'd be arriving or whatnot. And so I just sent my kids and my sister's family over to my mom's house. And I was like, oh, I'll just wait for Cowboy to arrive. And, and I'm just thinking there's nothing other than I just wanted to say hi to him. Right. So you arrive.
I did.
And you come in.
Yep.
You're
an empty
all
house,
in your
you and me.
Empty house. You're all in your motorcycle gear. And I have a birthday card for the family member that
I'm supposed to sign.
And I thought, okay, well, I'll get you to sign it. Actually, that's the reason I stayed back. Now I think about it.
So I could sign the card.
Sign the card.
Very
and
thoughtful
so
of you.
You're like kind of rushing a little bit and just kind of, signing the card. No big deal.
I think we were both slightly afoul.
We're
both kind of like,
maybe.
It's great to see you.
I mean,
yes,
but like I was feeling terrible. I was just like, I was sure I just ruined everything.
Much. You're so great.
And so I want you to picture we're in the dining room, and my sister's dog is on my lap. Cowboy is standing kind of bent over the table, signing the card. And that's kind of the vision of what's happening.
Yes.
And then the next few minutes go by so quickly that I'm not sure that I actually knew what transpired as it happened. It's more looking back on it. I'll be like, oh, I think, so it's kind of funny. It's one of those, like when you're in the minute, it just happened so quickly.
Yeah.
So I've got the dog in my lap and I tell you, I think I hear Cowboy, sorry. He was signing the card and he said, oh, I left my helmet on the motorcycle. I'll be right back. So he goes out and I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. And I'm just sitting there, really not paying attention to much of anything. And he comes back in, and I
had decided.
I hear more than I see.
I had decided it's like, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now.
And I hear his
I had
knee
her alone.
hit the floor. Like it was hard. And
I did have a knee pad.
Okay, well that's good.
The motorcycle pants.
From the motorcycle pants. So
I was uninjured.
And
unencumbered, uninjured.
I kind of look up, and you have the ring there, and I've still got a stupid dog in my lap, and I'm kind of like,
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Wait, what is this happening now? Like, this is it? This is what's happening? And so, of course, you popped the question.
I did.
And
what happened? What'd you do? What'd you say?
I said yes.
Aw. And then we embraced.
We did.
We put the ring on her finger.
You put the ring on my finger, and it fit very nicely. It's a gorgeous ring that is an unusual ring. So I didn't want the traditional diamond.
Yeah, that's what you requested.
So
we had talked about this sometime prior.
We had. So, I mean, obviously because we had talked about it,
in a wedding
we knew.
ring, what she would want on it, in it, around it, near it.
So we're all excited and delighted, right? So we, kiss, all that stuff. And so we go over.
We saunter over to the brunch.
What I say to him is, before we go over to the brunch, I say,
because she's devious,
let's not say anything to anybody for a minute.
Yep.
Because this is
someone's birthday. Yep, not here to steal the show.
We don't want to steal the show. And so we're all preparing brunch. Everybody's saying hi. Everybody loves Cowboy, so they're all delighted to see him and chatting with him, this, that, and the other.
They tolerate me.
And darn it, if my mother, eagle eyes.
She does have
She
sharp
spies the ring.
She saw the sparkle
on my finger. And I catch her eye, and I kind of do that motion, like, when you kind of like, you stare at somebody and you're like, don't you dare say anything. And you're kind of like, you have like that little tiny micro head shake, like, like, don't do it. And so she kind of whispers like, why? And I said, it's
someone else's birthday.
It's somebody else's birthday.
Yep.
Like,
let's let them have their moment.
Just give it a minute, whatnot. Right. And, I also, of course, I don't say this to my mother at the moment because, we're in the midst of putting together and cooking and stuff like that. And everybody's around. So I didn't want to make a big issue out of it. I was kind of just trying to use the birthday as a reason, but my children are there. So I haven't had an opportunity to say anything to my kids yet either, right? None of the family. It literally just happened. The dog knows. That's it.
Yep. The dog could have cared less.
And so we all sit down and have brunch, right? And my sister catches glimpse
also the eagle eyes
of the ring as well at some point during that entire thing. And I kind of give her that same look of like, zip it, like, don't talk about it right now. And so I think we've made it through. And this is payback really, because when I was a kid, my mom would have these instances where she's like, I've made it home free with toddler Kiki. I think we're good. And then I would just do something to blow the whole thing up. And boy, did I get payback, because we finished with the cake. We no sooner had we finished like the last bite of cake,
quote,
I think.
Birthday celebration
right?
had concluded.
And mom just announces, I think it's mom, announces to the entire room.
She couldn't wait.
And she's like, what were the words she said? She was something like, so tell us about the ring, or are you guys engaged, or something? And I'm caught off guard because I'm not expecting it to be this big announcement yet. And of course, now I'm feeling like, okay, yeah, because I don't want, here's the other problem. I don't want Cowboy to think that like I'm not excited or happy to talk about it.
I had no concern.
So it's one of those difficult situations where you're kind of like, well, I want them to shush, and at the same time, I know. So you were such a stinker, and
we were both very
excited.
And
so we start. I'm like, yes, and Cowboy, of course, is very happy, and we're talking about it, and then I look over at the kitchen counter, and one of my children,
teenage,
has just got this just look on her face
a bit of shock.
Just
yeah.
Complete shock, and like, starting to get kind of teary-eyed, where it's like
it's a transition. You bet. Yeah.
And it's not that she doesn't like Cowboy. I think it's
a big life change.
I think it was just in theory, right? I mean, she's knew that we were dating, the whole thing. I mean, like, but it's just that, right? Yeah. And so I walk over and I just kind of very quietly, I'm just tell her, like, I'm so sorry. How about, do you want to go over to, your auntie's house and sit for a minute and just breathe for a second, and I'll come over and we can talk. And she did. Mm-hmm. And off she goes. And, we all finish having our jovial, pleasantries. And I don't know what to say that. Like, the people congratulating us, right? I mean, that's really kind of what it was. Yeah, yes.
Everybody got up to speed.
And then I snuck away a little later, and I went over, just a few minutes later. It wasn't that much longer. And I sat and chatted with her. And it wasn't so much about you and I. It was more about, like, you're my mom and I already have a dad.
Right. What does this mean? Yeah, the blended family thing.
What does this mean? And it felt a lot to her like we were kind of erasing the past and kind of like none of that exists, and now you have a new dad, and all of that. And so
that can be confusing for a teenager.
It was emotional, at least. And so, I explained to her just I said, you can't rewrite the story that's already been written. Like, we're not trying to do that. We want to honor and respect that. And I'm not getting remarried because I regret my first marriage. It is a new chapter.
Yep.
This is a new adventure.
Turning a page into a new adventure.
A new thing. Your dad is always going to be your dad. Mm-hmm. Your mom is always going to be your mom. And now you've got a bonus.
Bonus dad.
Yeah, you got a bonus cowboy.
Yeah, she could. And that's the best part about being a teenager. You can ignore the new person. And she's been very sweet.
She's very sweet. Yeah. So and it all ended up being fine at the end. But it was
gone well.
It was just, I mean, if you want to hear like screeching brakes multiple times during this thing.
There were a lot of darting eyes. Yeah.
I gotta give it to you, babe. You when you said you were a storm chaser.
Hell yeah. So let's rewind.
Proof positive.
Let me take a moment and just share with everybody who's listening, or still listening, 30 minutes in, what was going to be that same morning somewhere else at a park near Kirby Lane after I'm sure we would have had a lovely breakfast. Actually, though, brunch there was fabulous. So hard to top that. But I had a musician who was going to be at a location. Aww. I told you this, you know this.
I know.
But
every time I hear it, though, I do.
But he and I talked on the phone a couple of times. We talked about just the layout, where to be, exactly what time, kind of the cue, what more or less we looked like, what we were wearing, and just all of that. And then as we approached, we went around this corner. Kind of we were going to follow more or less the same path we walked before.
Yep.
And as we approached around this corner, he was going to start he was supposed to be there playing something else, and as soon as he saw us, he was going to wrap up and then start playing "Marry Me." It's a song we both know. He's just going to start. He was just going to start with the opening, and then I was going to stop. We were going to stop in front of him.
I'm going to cry all over again.
Acknowledge him playing, and then I was going to drop on one knee, and he was going to keep playing and look at us like it was our song, or, for that. And then
I saved you though. You would have dropped on one knee and cracked your kneecap on the cement,
I wouldn't have had a knee pad.
You wouldn't have had the motorcycle knee pads. Yep. I really saved you.
I probably would have been
at the
injured.
end of the day.
You're right.
You would have. Yes. We would have had to go to the hospital.
Medical bills
would have been a whole thing.
A whole different layer. Yeah, but he was great because
you're welcome.
So when I got the call from Kiki saying, oh, there's a thing happening, I'm like, so I reached out to him, and I lost my deposit, but he was actually very gracious, and he's like, well, should you need the song played at a future time? He's like, you already paid up halfway, so it's still good.
Great.
It's still possible.
You're paid up halfway.
Yeah, I've already paid for half of it,
So we have half of a minstrel.
Yeah, it's like, so he's ready. I mean, when I told him the song, he's like, I know it well. He plays a lot of events and things like that, and you can't, and it's a really beautiful acoustic song. So, yeah, it's called Marry Me. I can't remember the artist at this point, but
do you know how hard it is to be me sometimes?
But I'll tell you, I have to give. I have to give Kiki credit.
I have a gift. I really do.
Yeah, but she still, and guys, you'll really appreciate that. I at least have credit. I get credit for having planned said thing.
You do. You get all the credit.
Got
and
attaboy
you
going
actually
back
probably
here.
get more credit because I know what a disaster I am. So
as do I, and maybe that's why I'm here.
I know.
Yeah, I get.
Love you.
It makes the story. I mean, what sailor wants to sail on a flat? Just whatever. No, bring me the rough seas. They bring me the chaos.
As you're puking overboard.
Test my skills. I don't get seasick, so that works out. The analogy doesn't make any sense, but I don't get seasick. So. But that's
maybe I'm the Leviathan instead underneath the water.
Yeah. So and I'm the one looking over, going, "Ooh, let's
look,
let me drop,
pretty octopus.
Let me chum the water, see what happens." But that is the what do we title this show?
Oh, I think
something like the engagement, obviously Misadventure.
Well, always everything's a misadventure, but this was called The Minstrel That Never Was.
Yes. The
I don't know.
Misallocated minstrel. Just watch
the missing minstrel.
We'll just see what the show title is. The show title will tell it. Yeah.
Well, as always, we welcome your comments and
buy our merch.
Rename our show.
Absolutely.
Anytime we welcome ideas.
Put your name ideas in the comments, and assuming
you never
we have a
know,
merch channel, buy our merch.
It might turn into something on merch.
Yeah, it absolutely might.
A little minstrel.
You might get a trucker hat with whatever you decided that would be.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us.
Love you, baby.
I love you too, darling.
Love everybody else too.
Yeah, I don't know them.